This year, we were able to provide 500 young people with the supplies they recently need in order to go off to college and be prepared for that wonderful experience.
Rotary One's signature project gives the students valuable work experience and contacts that can positively impact their future. Job One has provided over 400 students with summer internships since its inception.
Our main program is our Scholarship Award Program, which some of you may know as Rotary One is a partner of our Incentive Award Program. And what we do, starting way back 50 years ago, is we provide direct support to aspiring engineers. Annually, CEF is presenting up to 100 scholarship awards to students working towards engineering degrees.
IMD Guesthouse is an independent nonprofit, so we're in the Illinois Medical District, but we're not formally connected with it. We provide temporary lodging for medical patients and their families when they come to Chicago for medical treatment.
Rotary One is, as I mentioned, a partner of our Scholarship Award Program and has been following 3 students for the last 4 years now, providing that $5,000 of support to each of our students. They are going to be graduating this spring, May 2021. Elizabeth, David, and Brett will be graduating from their engineering schools thanks in partnership, which is an incredible thing, to our friends at Rotary One Chicago. And on behalf of our students, on behalf of our leadership, we thank you so much for this level of partnership and for following our students as they have worked so hard to complete their studies.
Where the Rotary funding really came in for us and where it was especially helpful this year was during the COVID period. So we never closed down during the COVID period. We always stayed open because people still need that kind of treatment.
But I just wanted to say to all of the Rotarians, this year in particular, you guys truly exemplified your motto of service above self. We could not have done this year's event without your unwavering support.
We qualified for support from Rotary One, and we're very grateful for it, for a grant just to help us continue to operate.
I wanted this opportunity to share with you my gratitude. I've had 2 sons come through the program. This is absolutely one of the best programs in the city of Chicago.
You guys were incredible this year, more so than any year. Every year you've been great, but this year, because of this pandemic, we would not have been able to do this without Rotary. So I just wanted to say that once again. I can't say it enough because behind the scenes, no one really knows what it took to make this year's event happen. This year was truly a challenge, but you guys rose to that challenge.
I just want to thank everybody again for this amazing opportunity because, I definitely need the scholarship. College is not cheap, especially Iowa State. So, I just wanted to thank everybody again for this amazing opportunity.
So I just wanted to say I'm so appreciative of this program. I want to thank Ms. Williams. I want to thank Steadfast and all of you Rotarians for your support. It really means the world to me. Thank you.
With all that said, thank you so much for your support.
Again, we thank you so much for your partnership over these last many years, and we look forward to many more partnerships to come. Thank you for being part of our Scholarship Award Program. Thank you for volunteering your time. I know there's many volunteers on this call and within Rotary who help us every day.
And I just want Rotary to understand that we deeply appreciate their giving and caring spirit and for their involvement in this wonderful program.
Through our fellowship of diverse, ethical individuals, we work together to have a transformative impact on our community. Not only does Rotary One work with the Jesse White Foundation, IMD Guesthouse, and Chicago Engineers Foundation, we fund and implement dozens of service projects around Chicago.
Well, I would like to welcome everybody to the 5,559th meeting of the Rotary Club of Chicago. Rotary One is now in session. Anybody who has joined the meeting here today may have noticed that we have an incredible crowd, probably one of our record crowds. I see 241 participants and rising. And I just want to let you know that you are all in store for a fantastic program today. Now, of course, we have our guest speaker, former Secretary Arne Duncan. But before we go into that portion of our agenda, I want to give a warm welcome to District 2483, Serbia and Montenegro. They will be giving us an intro to their district and countries later in the program. And as you can see, with that many people on the program, with so many guests here today, we're not realistically going to have a chance to introduce all of you. And I'm sorry about that. I know we always like to go through and have our guests introduce themselves, but it would probably take the rest of the afternoon and the evening to do that. But I do want to let you know, however, that we're thrilled that you have joined us today for this meeting of the Rotary Club of Chicago. I do want to specifically welcome a few folks. I do want to welcome Dusan Kozarev, Minister Counselor at the Embassy of the Republic of Serbia in the U.S., Vlada Matic, past District Governor for District 2483, Miloš Milivojević, Rotaract Representative for District 2483. And I know there's many other distinguished guests out there as well. Of course, a lot of folks from Serbia and Montenegro here with us today, but I also want to welcome guests from Croatia, Slovenia, Turkey, Portugal, England, Italy, Sri Lanka, Greece, Morocco, Egypt, the Netherlands, Argentina, Brazil, India. I'm sure I'm missing a few others. I don't know if he's joined us yet, but I do also want to welcome back our friend, the Australian Consul General, David Bushby. So thank you all for joining. I want to talk a little bit more before we get into the main part of our program about our international service and community service projects. As you saw from the video that we just shared, we've got a lot going on. And let me start by talking a little bit about international service. You can see projects here that are in progress and projects that have been funded. At the moment, we have 6 global grants that we're part of as a club. And not only are we leading tons of projects, but we participate by providing funding or other support for dozens of projects around the world. That includes a ton of projects, for example, in Bolivia relating to hospitals and hospital equipment down there. Projects, we have global grant in Senegal where we're providing HPV vaccines and training staff there to be able to provide HPV screening and vaccines, along with tons of other projects that we're engaged with. On the community service side of things, you got a little bit of a taste of that in the video. One of the things I'm most proud of is the fact that we've continued our hands-on service through COVID. We have delivered literally thousands of meals to frontline responders, to hospitals, but then also to seniors who are stuck at home, low-income seniors here in Chicago. We've packed over 2,000 hygiene kits to give out to the homeless. We've provided jackets to children. We have read stories to young children through virtual opportunities. And the list goes honestly on and on and on. And so one of our signature projects really is Job One. And with Job One, we teach Chicago high school students the skills they need to compete in the workforce. And then through a job fair, we connect them with paying internships. And this year, I'm proud to say, we have nearly 90 student applications. 90. This is a record in the 18 years of this program. So I want to, first of all, thank our Job One committee very, very, very much. But now the hard part of this begins. And I need your help because frankly, there's three things that I need. And I'm talking to our Rotarians out there. I'm talking to our guests, but there's three things that I need: jobs, jobs, and jobs. So the job can be virtual or not, but if it's in person, it has to be in Chicago. The minimum wage needs to be paid. It has to be at least 20 hours a week for 8 weeks. Folks, that's $2,400. We pay $2,400 to sponsor a dinner or other such things. But for $2,400, you can support a student. And honestly, we've screened and trained these kids. And so you and your company are going to get legitimate support from these students. Now, in a moment, and he's going to give us the thought of the day here in just a second, but I want to introduce you to somebody named Clint Krislov, one of our longtime members, and he's a longtime supporter of the program. And in fact, he hired one of our students last year. Clint, would you mind telling our audience today what your experience was like hosting a Job One student?
There we go. Thanks, Eric. Yes, we've done Job One interns for a number of years, and in view of the COVID thing that we've been in winter for most of the last year, we may not be able to cure the virus ourselves, nor can we really do much about the physical effects, but we can cure some of the harm. Taking in an intern this summer, either directly or by Zoom, gives a kid who's been stuck at home without the in-person experience of school or job over the past year an internship, and gives them an insight into what you do, what we all do, and what we all find fulfilling of our lives, and lets them know why we enjoy doing what we do, or why we go through the excitement and the challenge of it, why you do it. And it gives them an experience that they might not otherwise have. You can say that we must be breeding a bunch of lawyers as they come in here to work for our firm, but we get insights from them as well, because we have them do research of cases and ideas, and they're out on the front lines of new developments, and we feel good about it. We feel good about the experience that we've had with them and the experience that they've had with us. And you can cure a lot of the ill effects over the past year's COVID by taking in an intern, and you'll never know what you'll learn from them as well. But we found it to be a great thing to do. We've gotten back more than our investment in it over the years, and I'd encourage you to do the same.
Thank you very much, Clint. I really appreciate that. And frankly, if you want to hear other testimonials, you can talk to anybody who's ever hosted a Job One intern. We can, if you have some interest in hosting one, or you know somebody who can, please reach out to me, reach out to the office. You can email job1@rotary1.club. We'll get back to Clint in just a minute here. I do want to hand the floor over briefly to our president-elect, Marga Hugo, who's going to tell us a little bit about how we pay for all these wonderful projects that we do. Marga, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello everybody. Welcome everybody. So many guests that we have today. It is a delight to have you. Well, you may have heard this before, but in Rotary, we have the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International, and we have our own Rotary Club of Chicago Foundation. Both of them combined help us support the projects that we do both locally and internationally. With our, and the good thing about investing in these foundations is that we get to enjoy those funds back in projects of our choice. So the motivation to donate not only is very comforting because we use the money that we donate, but also you would like to know that at least 92 cents of each dollar go to the beneficiaries. The Rotary International Foundation has been rated by Charity Navigator at its top rate for the last 11 years. So the staff at the Rotary Foundation does an excellent job at managing the investments and your money. So I invite all of you who have not contributed yet to both foundations, please do so. You have time to contribute now or pledge before the end of the month of June. And also the Rotary One Foundation gives us back our money that we use for all the grants that you are seeing displayed on the screen. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions. We welcome contributions, large, medium, and small. Whatever you can, it all helps, as you know, and because we all work in this together. So thank you so much, Eric, and I look forward to receiving some contributions from you.
All right. Thank you very much, Marga, and thanks for all your hard work on the annual campaign. And before we get into our program proper now, we always like to kick things off with a thought for the day. And with that, I'm going to kick the meeting back to our very own Clint Krislov. Clint, the floor is yours once again.
Thanks, Eric. I was thinking about doing this in reverse, but I love spring. It's been a year when we've been in lockdown, and we've been fortunate. I mean, the one benefit of getting to be over 70 is that you get a vaccine shot ahead of time. And so we were fortunate to do that and fly down over the weekend to see our grandchildren who are very young. And, we got to enjoy them for the weekend before flying back up here. And, spring, and you can see the buds all growing and popping up. And in fact, when we flew back, I understand you hit a big snowstorm here yesterday at 2:00, and they put our plane down in Little Rock, Arkansas for a couple of hours. And we didn't know if we'd make it back until today, perhaps. But anyway, so we got back and we flew into Midway yesterday evening. It was so wonderful to see Midway packed with people, as if everything was back to normal again. And the place was packed with travelers. And my wife said, it may not be that. It may be that because there were all these planes that were canceled and all these people were stuck there. And I said, well, let's look at it on the positive side, that spring is coming and this is the first harbinger of great things, of normality and to come. And so I suggest we all look at these opportunities to look on the positive view and to say that things are going to get better and better and better. And so I wish all of you a great day today and a great spring.
Thank you very much, Clint. I appreciate those positive words. I think that makes me feel a little better. I can certainly say anecdotally that more and more people I talk to, people I'm meeting at our normal home, the Union League Club, tell me they're there because they've been vaccinated. And so I'm hearing about more and more people being vaccinated. I see more people out on the streets as well. So I do hope that that's a good sign. As we begin our program here, just a reminder, keep yourself on mute. Another reminder that if you have questions for our speaker today, please put them into the chat box. I know we're getting a lot of greetings into the chat box. Maybe we can focus on questions now, but I'll do my best to pick out the questions from amongst the greetings. So I want to turn the floor over to our program's co-chair extraordinaire, who happens to be a senior VP at UBS Wealth Management. He's also the founder of the Illinois Fatherhood Initiative and the 21st Century Dads Foundation. I would like to pass the floor to Mr. David Hirsch.
Eric, thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Arne Duncan, a native Chicagoan and leader in the field of education and community renewal. Arne grew up in Hyde Park, which is on the south side of Chicago, where he attended the University of Chicago Lab School. Both a gifted athlete and scholar, Arne studied sociology at Harvard University, where he was co-captain of the basketball team and a first-team academic All-American. From 1987 to 1991, he played professional basketball in, of all places, Australia, where he also worked with children who were wards of the state. From 1992 to 1996, he came back to Chicago and helped create the Aerial Education Initiative, a program mentoring children at one of the city's worst performing elementary schools. That program would later become the Aerial Community Academy, a chartered school. In 1999, Arne was appointed Deputy Chief of Staff for former Chicago Public School CEO Paul Vallis, and in 2001, Mayor Richard M. Daley appointed Arne CEO of Chicago Public Schools. In 2009, newly elected President Barack Obama appointed Arne as U.S. Secretary of Education, a position he served in until 2016. One of his initiatives as secretary was a $4 billion race to the top competition. In 2016, he became a managing director with the Palo Alto-based education group known as the Emerson Collective, a social change organization focused on education, immigration reform, the environment, media and journalism, and health. Founded by Laureen Powell Jobs, Emerson Collective uses philanthropy, impact investing, advocacy, and community engagement as tools to spur change in the United States and abroad. In 2018, I also authored the book, How Schools Work, an inside account of failure and success from one of the nation's longest serving secretaries of education. Arne and his wife, Karen, a native Tasmanian, make their home in Chicago and have two adult children, Claire and Ryan. Arne, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I'm going to kick off the questions, and I'd like to break the questions up into two categories, if it's okay with you, Arne. First, which is the large body of your career and your work, which has to do with education. And then the second part of the questions will be about the Emerson Collective. And to kick things off, I thought I would throw you this softball and ask, how has growing up in Chicago shaped your worldview?
Well, thanks for the opportunity. Ask any questions they want, personally, professionally, might as well make it interesting for people. So there's nothing off limits. But Chicago and a pretty unique Chicago upbringing has absolutely shaped me in every way. So grew up in Hyde Park on the south side of Chicago. My dad was a professor at the University of Chicago. We lived literally on campus. Our family now lives 2 blocks away where I grew up. So it's great to be home. And that was a big part of my upbringing. But maybe the large part, honestly, was my mother started an inner city touring. Please, that'd be helpful. Thank you. I was born in 64, my sister in 67, my brother in 70, and she raised all of us as a part of her after-school tutoring program. So I was going to that long before I ever went to real school. And seeing how hard she worked, seeing how my afternoon friends, how smart they were, how committed they were, how entrepreneurial they were, their work ethic, but seeing the tremendous lack of opportunity they had relative to my friends during the school day in Hyde Park going to the lab schools. That inequity, that fundamental unfairness has been the driving passion for my sister, my brother, and I. We've all tried to follow in my mother's footsteps in various ways. And she did that work for 52 years until her health gave out. Unfortunately, she has Alzheimer's now, which everyone knows is a wicked disease. But I think whether it's working on the South Side, whether it's working nationally, working here across Chicago, in Chicago Public Schools, I always say that talent is much more evenly distributed than opportunity. I think it's been my life's work to try and bring opportunity to where that talent is.
Yeah, well, thank you. And thanks for making reference to both your parents who were very influential in your life, especially your mom. So one of the things that I've observed is that with each new administration, there seems to be a new direction or emphasis on education policy. For example, in the mid-1990s, during the Clinton administration, I served on a task force with the U.S. Department of Education while Dick Riley was secretary. The message then was parental involvement in education, which really resonated with me since I've been an outspoken advocate for father involvement in education. I'm sort of curious to know who sets the national policy direction, and is there a better approach than the current methodology that we've been utilizing?
Yeah, Secretary Riley is one of my heroes. I just happened to talk to him the other day, so I was thrilled to be able to do some work with him. I learned so much from him and from his work. So as you know, with every administration, basically a combination of the president, the White House, and the Secretary of Education, figure out that policy. I had the real advantage of having worked for, at that point, worked with Senator Obama, both when he was in the Illinois legislature and then when he was an Illinois senator. We'd worked together on education issues for years. So he knew where my heart was. I knew where his heart was. We knew what we wanted to do together. And having that personal relationship gave me, I think, a huge leg up in terms of getting work done, from day one. But what I've always said is education should be the ultimate bipartisan or nonpartisan issue. For me, there's nothing Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative about more young children having access to high quality pre-K, which I think is the best investment we can make, and raising graduation rates and having more young people prepared for college and careers and trying to lead the world in college completion rates. And what I would love to see as a nation is I would love to see us across administration, even across decades, have a couple goals, educational goals that we would unite behind. And then every administration could have their own, spin, their own strategy. And again, left, right, whatever. They're great ideas coming across the country and across the political spectrum. But where I think we struggle, honestly, is we don't have consensus around those goals. And so we end up arguing about a lot of what I call small ball issues. And for me, it slows down the pace of change that we need to have and sometimes results in mediocrity. So I always want to distinguish between goals and strategies. There's no one strategy that's going to be, it's a big country. I was lucky to visit all 50 states and schools across the country. What works well in Montana may not work in inner city Chicago or in Wyoming or whatever it might be. But if we could unite behind a couple goals and hold ourselves accountable for making progress towards those goals over time, I think we'd be doing a much better job of serving our children and ultimately helping our nation.
Yeah, well, thank you for explaining that. And it seems logical and clear that our country, our citizens would benefit if, there were long-term goals and objectives, right? So that there would be greater continuity in our education policy. And I know that you were successful because you drew criticism from both the right and the left, Arne. And my hat's off to you. I don't know what it'd be like having that job for as long as you did, but I know that you must have been effective if you're drawing the wrath from both sides. So I'm sort of curious to know, with this race to the top competition, how did that work and what's your assessment of its effectiveness?
Yeah, I don't know if getting criticism from everybody is a sign of success or not. It's far from, of course. So just backing up a minute, was we came in, obviously it's so much worse now in terms of where the economy is in the pandemic, but at the time we were in the middle of the recession. And I think the Recovery Act had about, I'll forget the exact number, but about $778 billion. And we in education got $100 billion. And our normal annual budget was about $70 billion. So more than double that overnight. And the vast majority of that money, about 96 billion, we just put out to states as fast as we could to save teacher jobs. And we saved a couple 100,000 teacher jobs across the country, which I was thrilled about. We did not save every teacher job, and I desperately wish we could have, but that's where the vast majority of the money we received from the Recovery Act went. As you said, though, we kept about $4 billion back for the race to the top, and $4 billion sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but just to put it in context, on K-12 education, we spend about $650 billion. So it's actually less than 1% of our nation's annual spend there. And what we did, I'm a big believer in carrots, not sticks, and incentives, is we just challenge states to think about a couple different things. We challenged them to raise standards, so students weren't going to college too far behind and having to take remedial classes. We challenge them to think about teacher evaluation. We challenge them to turn around low-performing schools. We challenge them to think about data systems and just having transparency. I think so much in education is opaque, and it's opaque not by accident, intentionally. That's, again, part of the challenge. And we just encourage states to put forward their best plans. And states had to work with their across the state and with union leadership. And we just saw this unbelievable outpouring of ideas and innovation and creativity. And there were so many interesting lessons, but at the top of it is we saw as much change in states that didn't receive a nickel as states that received hundreds of millions of dollars. And that was a huge lesson that the money, while it is important, it's not the most important thing. It is really creating the climate in which hard decisions can be made that honestly do challenge the orthodoxy on the left and the right. And I always thought our job was to fight for kids. So our best hope when we started was that about half the nation states would apply, about 25. We ended up having about 46 states apply. We did 2 rounds of funding. We came back and did another race to the top for early childhood education. So there are absolutely things that we would do differently in hindsight and that we learned from. But to see so many states challenge themselves in fundamental ways that often hadn't happened in decades felt like an extraordinary opportunity to try and improve educational outcomes and educational opportunity for kids and communities who are most disadvantaged, most marginalized here in the United States.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So there's a well-known Chicagoan that once said, we should never let the opportunity created by a crisis go to waste. In that spirit, what opportunities do you see for our nation's education system to see acceleration of the positive trends in education once we are past this most difficult part of the pandemic?
Yeah, this has obviously been just a devastating and incredibly dark time for our nation and for our nation's children and our families and teachers. And never thought we would be here, and hope we'll never be here again. I'm always honest, for better or worse, and I think the pandemic morphed from a natural disaster to a man-made catastrophe. We saw so many other nations handle it in a much more thoughtful, science, fact-based way. And just the devastating loss of life here, the loss of educational opportunity, it did not have to be this bad. And it just breaks my heart that this is where we are. But this is where we are, and thankfully things are getting better, and we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel and moving in the right direction. And I've said repeatedly for months and months and months that this is not the time to go back to quote unquote normal, whatever normal was, because normal didn't serve kids anywhere near well enough. And to your point, it is a time to pick your word, reimagine, reinvent education. I'll just give you a couple quick thoughts. One is right now, in this time of crisis where students have fallen so far behind, we need a national tutoring initiative. For me, we're basically in a 6-month sprint. It's actually getting closer to 5 months at this point between now and the start of school this fall. We cannot afford to have tens of millions of kids be 6 months, 9 months, 12 months behind. And so, physically, virtually, hybrid, we need to reach tens of millions of kids with hundreds of thousands of tutors and help them catch up so they can start school this fall, not so far behind and in a good place. When you think about how do we reinvent, reimagine education, a couple quick thoughts. One is we've had a K-12 education system here in the United States that I think has probably served us well, or served many well, for the past 100 years, but is frankly insufficient for the next, not just 100, but for the next 5, the next 10 years. And so I would love to see us move as a country to a pre-K to 14 system, extend both at the younger ages and the older ages. We have to get our babies off to a good start. And I always say our best investment as a nation would be in high quality pre-K. We need to make that available to every child that wants it, every family that wants it, so they can enter kindergarten academically and socially and emotionally ready to learn. And then while graduating from high school is obviously critically important, we have to keep driving up those high school graduation rates. A high school diploma in today's economy is not enough to get a job that can pay a living wage and support a family and help you buy a home. So some form of education, 4-year university, 2-year community college, trade, technical, vocational training, some form of education beyond high school has to be the goal for every single young person. So moving from a K-12 system to a pre-K to 14 system. Now is absolutely the time to do that. Other changes, obviously, summer is sort of obsolete at this point, and whether kids need help academically to catch up or need help socially, emotionally, or need this summer just to be around their friends. I've been talking about we need to do 4 things for children now: help them learn, help them grow, help them heal, and let them play. And so rethinking a summer break, the last thing most kids and families need is a summer break. They need to be re-engaged. So just rethinking those summer months. And then the final thing I would say is I would love to see us move from an educational system that is based on seat time. And let me explain what I mean by that. One example, here you basically pass algebra. If you go to algebra 4 or 5 days a week, an hour a week for 9 months, I would like to move from a seat time system to a competency-based system so that you pass algebra when you know algebra, when you can demonstrate you know algebra. That might be after 3 months, it might be after 4 months, it might be after 9 months, it might be after 15 months, and there's no right or wrong answer there. But what's been constant here in the United States for too long has been time, and the variable has been learning. I want to flip that on its head. I want the constant to be learning, and I want the variable to be time.
Well, I love that idea. Thank you for emphasizing it. It sounds like the do not pass go, do not collect $200, right? Once you get to the certain level of knowledge, then you move on. But what happens when, somebody like myself wouldn't be able to pass something? All joking aside. But I did have a question about your book. It's been out for a few years, and I'm wondering how it's been received. Who's the audience you were writing to?
Yeah, it was a lot more work. I've written one book. I don't think I'm going to write a second part of it when I realized. But I thought it was a really important time to just sort of reflect on what worked, reflect on what didn't work, lessons learned. And the audience was really mixed, and it wasn't for any one particular audience. Obviously, educators have been interested, but I've had lots of comments and feedback from parents, and for me that was critically important to reach parents. And there have actually been some high school students, younger teens that have read it as well. And it's really just trying to get people thinking about where we are, why we are where we are, and then how do we get better as a country. So it wasn't geared to any specific audience, but really just trying to raise the profile of the issue. And I say all the time that I think education is our best offense. Our best defense might be the military, but our best offense is a nation, is a world-class education system. And I candidly think we have a long way to go before we have the kind of world-class education system that our children and families demand, and that our economy also demands today. In a flat world, high-wage, high-skilled jobs are going to go to where the knowledge workers are, anywhere in the world. And I want those jobs, as many of them as possible, to stay in our communities here across the United States.
That's fabulous. So let's talk for a few minutes about the Emerson Collective before we open it up to the audience for general questions. How does the Emerson Collective work, and who's involved?
Yeah, so it's been a wonderful partnership, and so I work for Emerson, and Emerson funds my work. But basically, I'm only in Palo Alto probably 3 or 4 times a year, and I set up a nonprofit here in Chicago called Chicago CRED, CRED, which stands for Creating Real Economic Destiny. And we are laser focused on reducing gun violence here in our city. Tragically, our city is 6 times more violent than New York, 3 to 4 times more violent than LA. It does not have to be this way. It should not be this way. And the thing that just continues to haunt me is how many of our children on the South and West Side grow up knowing people who have been shot and killed. Now, I've never been to a real war zone, Afghanistan, Iraq, whatever. But the amount of loss and the amount of trauma that our children, almost all of them, experience is just devastating. And all my life, I've preached deferred gratification, think long term, and plan for going to college. And a lot of our young people, very rationally, are just trying to survive. And many, particularly our young men on the South and West Sides, often think they're not going to live past 18 or 20 or 22. So why should they plan for the long haul? Why should they plan for a long life? Because that's not what they feel is in the cards for them. And so we're working really hard with the young men and young women on the south and west sides, most likely to shoot and be shot, and really helping them move out of the street economy and the illegal economy, get the kind of trauma care they need, have lots of good high school diplomas, get the life coaching that they need. We have a fantastic jobs team and helping them move from that street economy into from the illegal economy to the legal economy. So it's been the hardest work I've ever done, honestly, the most heartbreaking, but also the most inspiring. And to see young people who have been through, many of the folks we work with are like ages 17 to 25, 26, 27, knowing the history of trauma, knowing how much pain they have both received and honestly inflicted, and seeing their commitment to transforming their lives and being positive community leaders. It's just an extraordinary journey. And I say all the time that our young men and women, they're not the problem. They're the solution to the problem. We have to walk with them and learn from them. And they are going to lead Chicago to a safer place.
Yeah, well spoken. And what comes to mind is the concept of war, right? Because in some cases, these individuals, these families, these youth have lived through some really traumatic situations. And it's not lost on anybody that, veterans come back from the war zone and they experience PTSD. And I have to believe that our youth are experiencing something equivalent, if not PTSD itself, with their life's experience. So you're really doing God's work. And I know that you've only been at it for about 5 years, but I'm wondering if there's any early evidence or results that you can share with us that give us hope.
Yeah, so it's been a fascinating journey. So the first couple years of the work, we started in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, we saw double-digit reductions in homicides and shootings, and that's my scorecard. My metrics are very simple these days, so that was very encouraging. Unfortunately, 2020 was a terrible year. It was a terrible year here in Chicago. It was a terrible year across the country. The combination of the pandemic and violence sort of post George Floyd's murder. Violence went up in our city about 50%. So it was a very, very tough year. And we have to basically starting almost all over again. It was really interesting, David. In a very tough year, we have 15 neighborhoods here in Chicago that produce 80% of the violence in the city. It's highly concentrated. Our city is unfortunately so segregated. The neighborhood on the far south side in Roseland, where we started working, where we've worked the longest and where we've worked with the largest number of young men. There's over 310 men that have been in our program there. Roseland was significantly safe in a very dark time this past year than the other neighborhoods that produced the vast majority of violence. So that for me was actually unbelievably encouraging, frankly, and that what we're really trying to do now is scale our work to those other 14 neighborhoods across Chicago, reach more young men, give them a reason to put down the guns, help them work through that trauma, give them a reason to think about building positive future for themselves and have some real hope. Hope not in something that's nebulous, but hope in concrete opportunity. And so it was a devastating year. It was honestly one of the hardest years of my life. But at the same time, I'm actually extraordinarily hopeful about where we can go as a city. And we're doing the vast majority of this work through philanthropic dollars, private dollars, which has been, amazing. But ultimately, what we're trying to produce is a public good. Public safety is a public good. The city has stepped up its funding, but we're going to challenge the city, the state, the county, and now the new administration in D.C. To really join in giving our young people a chance to turn their lives around and transform their community.
Great. So the last question I'll ask before I turn it back to Eric, who will field the questions that have been coming in over the chat, is what role can Rotary play, and for that matter, individuals, who might be participating in the call or hearing your message?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. And obviously it's been difficult during the pandemic, but we're starting to open up all of our sites physically again. So if folks ever want to come out, we have a couple sites south side, a couple sites west side. I bounce neighborhood to neighborhood every morning. I was racing here to get back downtown to my office to be on time for the call. But people ever just want to come out and see the work, experience the work, they'd be welcome to do that. And I heard at the top of your call, your request for folks on the job side. And I just want to say how critically important that is. That the only way our program works is if we have concrete job opportunities at the back end. I can't ask people to change their lives. I can't ask people to stop feuds that have gone on for decades. I can't ask them to put down the guns unless I have concrete opportunity. And basically, the young men and women work with us for about a year. We pay them, but then we spin them off to the legal economy. And we need more employers here in Chicago. We've had amazing partnerships. We have a couple of young men working at law firms, which is unbelievable. We have one working Deloitte. Our young guys have lots of different interests: culinary, hospitality, manufacturing, construction, accounting, technology, you name it. But I can't continue to grow and look people in the eye unless we have those jobs at the back end. And let me be really clear. I know what we're asking is a stretch, maybe a little scary, honestly, that where you have people, not all, but many of whom have criminal backgrounds, who have violent criminal backgrounds. That's maybe a non-traditional talent pool. But I also want people to understand how resilient and how committed to transformation and how smart and how many of our guys and women are natural leaders. And that I'm not asking anyone to take anyone straight out of Cook County Jail or straight off the streets, but to know that they've been with us for whether it's 9 months or 12 months or 15 months, and we're not going to spin them off until we feel they're ready. And then we don't just let them go. We stay in very close contact with them. We have an alumni network with their employers to make sure things are going well. And so I recognize it's a unusual ask or request. If folks want to write us a check or support the work, we would absolutely welcome that and appreciate that. But honestly, for me, more important than writing a check would be given an opportunity for our guys to come work. And the fact at this point that we've had, many of our guys who've been, very stable, doing very well, working, 2-3 years at their place of employment, that's been amazing to see. And the final thing I'll say is I really can't emphasize this enough. If this is seen as sort of a charity effort, it's not going to work. People have to see it as in their company's best interest. That these young men and women will actually make their companies better. And that's absolutely proven to be true across the city. But that's the spirit in which we want people coming at this. We appreciate charity, but we don't necessarily want your charity. We want you to invest in our young men and give them a chance to prove what they can do to make your companies better.
Arne, thank you. I just want to say for sharing your time and your insights with us today. And Eric, I'd like to kick it back to you to field a question or two from our audience.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you, Secretary Duncan. I just wanted to say that we did a joint program with the Rotary Club of Harlem last year on gun violence. And in fact, one of our panelists was Melvin Hayward from Chicago Cred. And he represented Chicago Cred really well. It was fantastic to have that program with him, and we learned a lot about the great stuff that you guys are doing. So thank you for that. We have a lot of questions that have come in here, so we are not going to be able to get through all of them, but we'll try to get through as many as we can. Let's start with a couple of questions from some of our international guests, shall we? One of our guests says that STEM was introduced during your term as an important part of U.S. strategy in education. And in fact, that in turn motivated other countries to do the same. What have the results of that been? Have they been positive?
Well, I always, glass half full, glass half empty. I'm always very impatient here in the United States with our pace of change. I never think we're getting better fast enough. So yes, there has been progress. There has been improvement, but my honest answer is here it's always too slow. And so it's always looking to figure out how do we accelerate the pace of change. So whether it's STEM, whether it's in reading, however you want to measure, again, college degrees, access to high quality pre-K, we have a long way to go here in the United States. So this is no mission accomplished moment. It's like we got to get better. We got to get better faster.
Understood. I certainly agree. Another question, very, very specific question from one of our guests who's actually a PhD student and researcher who's blind. And he wants to know what is the situation when it comes to education for children with blindness? Is there a trend of deinstitutionalization in the US as there is in Europe? Or are there still some schools for the blind that are going to stay that way long term?
Yeah, it's a great question. There are actually very few schools just for the blind. There are a couple, but whether it's whatever the special needs might be, blindness is just one. Really trying to have an inclusive environment and help young people wherever they are and give them the resources and supports they need in a mainstream setting has been the goal and the practice for a long time.
Got it. Thank you. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. There are several questions that came in regarding standardized testing and some of the changes and shifts that are going on there. Just curious, if we're not doing testing, how do we evaluate whether kids are learning the things that you mentioned before that they need to learn, like your example with algebra, for example, understanding that testing needs to be modified and improved. But if we don't have the data, how can we determine where they're at or what they need? And then just the second part of that question is how about then evaluating each state's success on an objective basis?
Two great questions. So again, I'm pretty clear. Not everyone agrees. I absolutely agree with the premise of the question. I do not think we can help students learn if we don't assess where they are. And when you go to the doctors for your annual checkup, the doctor just doesn't start prescribing medication to you randomly because of what they, their hunch or their supposition or how you look. They ask you a series of questions. They ask how you're feeling and what's going on. And we have to do the same thing. And I've been arguing, now more than ever, when so many students are so far behind, we've had a couple million students basically out of school for a year, which is just mind-boggling to think about. We have to assess where they are. So we should be assessing right now. And like I said, I want to have a 5 or 6 month sprint, and we should be assessing where they are in the fall and holding ourselves accountable as adults to figure out, did we help them catch back up or not? And the absence, I always say that the data doesn't tell the whole truth, but it doesn't lie either. And far too often in education, I think we're scared, honestly. I think we're scared of the truth. And we need to not be. We need to embrace it, whatever it is. Wherever students are, let's take them from where they are and help them improve. And the only way we can do that is by assessing them. One of the things we also encouraged with mixed success was not having 50 states do their own assessments. I always say if you invest in the stock markets, the price of a stock is only measured one way, not 50 ways in a paper every single day, on the internet. If you follow a sports team, there's only one way of measuring whether that team won or lost, not 50 ways. And so we put some incentives for states to stop doing things individually, start to doing it together. We've had some progress, but again, my honest answer would be, as a country, we're still too fractured, still too fragmented in our use of assessments across states.
Thank you. And thanks for your honest assessment of that. Do you have time, Arne, for one more question?
Yeah, I got 2 minutes. Yep.
You have 2 minutes. Very good. So this is, since you mentioned the sports there briefly, I wanted to talk about a question here from the University of Chicago grad. When your father was the university's rep to NCAA, as you know, the university named an award after him for his recognition of the importance of athletics in the process of education. Can you share with us your view on the interaction of athletics and education?
Yeah, well, it actually makes me a little emotional. So yeah, Dad was hugely influential there, and I co-chair the Knight Commission on intercollegiate athletics now. And honestly, a lot of that is just trying to continue to build upon my father's work. But I've always been one to think that academics and sports were not in conflict. You look across the country, college students who are athletes actually graduated at higher rates than non-athletes. I think maybe just second only to the military. I think the chance to participate in sports, whether in high school or college, is an amazing training ground for our nation's future leaders. And so as long as it's students first and athletes second, and I think sometimes big time college sports loses that balance. I've challenged that. But honestly, the Division III model, the University of Chicago model, has been wildly influential in my own thinking here. And my dad was absolutely an academic, but he understood how important that intercollegiate experience was for young people. He knew what it meant for their future careers. He knew what it meant for them as future leaders. He knew what it meant for them to be engaged alumni of the university and giving more young people across the country the chance to play sports, again, whether in high school or in college, as long as the academic part is kept front and center. That's been part of my life's work.
Well, thank you so much, Secretary Duncan, for that honest answer. We appreciate all that you and your father have done for the city of Chicago and for the country. We also want to sincerely thank you for spending some time with us today. We do have a little token, very small token of our appreciation. It's a candle that we're going to send your way. And like everything we do here at the Rotary Club of Chicago, we want to make sure that we're making a lasting change and making an impact. So all proceeds from these candles support Bright Endeavors and their mission to empower young moms by providing transitional jobs and professional skills training. So this not only helps those moms, but it supports, of course, their kids and ultimately their communities. So thank you once again for joining. Everybody, please give a nice virtual round of applause for Secretary Duncan.
Thanks so much for the opportunity and for all of your collective leadership. And I love the conversation and thoughtful questions. Have a great day.
You as well, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Very good. Well, thank you to all of our guests and members today for the great questions. Some of those questions I know sort of got answered during the Q&A between David and Secretary Duncan, and I tried to get to as many of the others as possible, but all great questions. So now we're going to forego the normal introduction of guests that we would have at this time, and we want to feature some of our friends and guests from Rotary District 2483 in Serbia and Montenegro. And to kick off that portion of the program today, I'm going to turn the floor over to the Rotaract representative for District 2483, Mr. Miloš Milivojević. Miloš, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to thank you guys for this opportunity to attend your regular meeting. I would like to say that I would like to thank especially to you, Mr. President, since you were completely involved in the organization of this event with us from day one. You once again proved your organizational and leadership skills, and you made it possible for us. So thank you very much. Also, I would like to greet President-elect Margarita Huko, who, as far as I understand, has Ukrainian origin. So that means she's a Slavic person, same as we are. So of course, we feel even happier to know that. Also, I would like to thank Secretary Duncan on outstanding presentation he gave us. I would like to greet diplomatic officials on Serbian and American side. I would like to also greet all other Rotary One members, all guests to this meeting, and of course, my friends from Serbia, Montenegro, ex-Yugoslavia, Europe, and all other continents. And I know there is a lot of them here present today. One interesting fact particularly inspired me for today's speech. Did you know that on Vidovdan, our famous national holiday in 1918, Serbian flag was raised together with American on White House and all other government institutions. This was done as a token of appreciation for all heroic battle and sacrifice Serbia has put in World War I. I tried to do some research, but I couldn't find any similar example or sign of friendship which USA expressed to any other country. This makes our diplomatic relationship that started in 1882 even richer. Also, I would like to say that thanks to 28th US President Woodrow Wilson, Serbia got some new territories after the war, and those territories are even today part of our country. Our friendship was confirmed in Second World War, where in spite of enormous pressure our country received from other countries, Serbia and our brothers from Montenegro decided to choose Allied side once again. This came at a big price, but eventually we were on the right side of history together with American people. Serbia is very proud of one particular event that happened during this war, and this is Operation Heliard, or Forgotten 500. This is a rescue mission that is considered to be one of the largest and biggest rescue missions in the history of warfare, when 500 pilots were rescued from Serbian territory. American pilots took off from Italy, went on to bomb Nazi oil fields in Romania, but they were met with heavily armed German gun forces, so more than 600 of them were brought down. 500 pilots were scattered all around Serbian territory, and the Serbian peasants, together with Serbian villagers and Serbian army, came in and temporarily rescued those people and brought them to safe houses where they would wait for rescue planes to come. This marked the beginning of Operation Heliard, and the risks for this mission were huge. Big American cargo planes, C-47s, had to go through enemy lines, pick up pilots, and come back without being shot themselves. Starving American pilots had to construct landing stripes large enough to support those C-47s without any proper tools, without alerting Germans, and without endangering Serbian lives. Eventually, mission was a complete success since all 500 pilots were rescued and brought back safely to the United States. President Harry Truman awarded Serbian officers with Legions of Merit and Medals of Honor. From today's perspective, this story sounds like an excellent scenario for a blockbuster movie, and I surely hope that some big and famous Hollywood producing company would think about making this kind of movie in future. They would not have to worry about any script because Serbian and American soldiers already wrote it with their own deeds. America gave the opportunity to many famous Serbians to contribute in development of civilization. First person that comes to my mind is Nikola Tesla, person who invented alternating current and who is responsible for naming biggest electric car company Tesla Car and electric truck company Nikola Trucks. Mihailo Pupin, another Serbian-American inventor, invented long-distance telephone calling. So I believe it would not be a big exaggeration if I say that we could not be having a meeting like this if there wasn't for some help from Serbian guys. Today, our best ambassadors are sportsmen. Novak Djokovic is #1 tennis player in the world. He won US Open 3 times on Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York. And Nikola Jokic is leading player for Denver Nuggets in the NBA and legitimate MVP candidate for this season. Serbia is also known as a producer of healthy food. We are second largest exporter of raspberries, and many of those end up in American supermarkets. So there is a good chance that if you recently ate some cookies or muffins made from raspberry, that they came from Serbia. I would like to finish my short presentation with the focus on one important thing, because I believe that even today, in 21st century, America and Serbia continue to share same values: love, cooperation, friendship, partnership, dedication. And I believe all of us meeting here today have already proven that. It's up to a new generation that's emerging to reestablish and reaffirm those relationships. So we hope that we are going to be able to do that. I hope you enjoyed in my presentation as much as I did while preparing it. I would like now to give word to our past governor, Mr. Vlada Matić. Mr. Matić, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Milos. Great speech. Dear Rotary friends, when we discussed last May what would be the best, how to motivate our members in this pandemic COVID year without meeting in person, we all agreed it was Global Grants projects. It was the right moment to, because the new program Hearts of Europe, Global Grants, was just being introduced by the Rotary Foundation and USAID as a partner. Today, we are very satisfied to say that our district has 10 active Global Grants projects, that it is more than we had in the last few years altogether. 3 of these 10 Global Grants projects were started last year, and your club, Rotary Club Chicago, supported one of them, for the medical equipment in East. Thank you, and we are very appreciated. 5 Global Grants project proposals were prepared under the program Hearts of Europe Global Grant, and so far Rotary Foundation USAID approved 2 of them, very important. One is for COVID hospital in Čačak and another incubators for hospital in Pančevo. In these 2 global grants projects, the great support was provided by the international sponsor, our friends from Rotary Club Austin, Texas for Čačak, and District 6060 for Missouri for Pančevo project. We expect the other 3 global grants prepared under this program to be approved soon, supported by international sponsor clubs from USA, Rotary Club Pittsfield, Rotary Club Savannah, and Rotary Club Coca-Cola City. For our district, it would mean near $750,000 support. Great number for us. In health regulation law, all our USA international sponsors will be able to come over and visit the project sites in Serbia. It will be a great opportunity for USA, Serbia, and Montenegro to make intercountry committee between our countries. Of course, the member of Rotary Club Chicago is also very welcome to come and visit us, especially when we remember that fact that our capital Belgrade and Chicago are twin cities. Dear Rotarian friends, thank you for this meeting. I wish you and your families good health. In the end, I will ask Dusan Kozarev, Minister Council of Serbia Embassy, to address you.
Thank you. My name is Dusan Kozarev. I'm a Minister Counselor in the Embassy of the Republic of Serbia in Washington, D.C. And I thank you and I thank the organizers for such a nice event. And I would wish to convene the greetings from our ambassador, who unfortunately had a tight schedule for today. So he delegated me to take part on behalf of the Republic of Serbia's representation in the U.S. And I like to stress my support. Yeah, do you hear me?
Oh, yeah, now we can hear you. Sorry, you were breaking up just a little bit there.
Yeah, maybe it's the internet connection. So it's always good to have people from Serbia thinking likewise with the people with the US and making connections between each other on various levels. This is one of the I'd say channels of communication that traditionally opens various other potentials on humanitarian levels, on economic level, on the business to business level. So it's always good to have people from Rotary. Being myself at the Rotaract level involved at some initiatives like 10 years ago in Belgrade, and being a member of a committee for establishment of one of the Rotaract clubs in Belgrade within the Vračar club. Some 10 years ago, I was also attending meetings like this. So I know how you are doing your best to bring a huge person energy and all sorts of people in need mostly. So we much appreciate it. And whenever and whatever comes up from within the Rotary community in terms of connection and cooperation between Serbia and the US, and while we are in the US, whatever comes up on the level of some initiatives, ideas. This is the year that we celebrate with pride and joy 140th anniversary of our bilateral relations between the U.S. and Serbia, established in 1881. So it's a long-lasting knowledge of each other. Representatives of our embassy visited Mihailo Pupin's grave just 2 days ago in New York. So we're very involved in what connects us and brings us together, and we will be more in this year and years to come. So please be free to contact us whenever something raises up that potentially good. The mission of bringing people and delivering certain solutions to certain people in need, and whether that might be humanitarian, social, economic, of course, establishing some business ties also. We are here, and we are here with the mission to make things more feasible in all the potential positive terms to the maximum possible extent in our terms. So we would like to see you joining us in that effort, and us joining you, of course, whenever something raises up that might be mutually interesting. So I'm very glad and honored to be the part of this proud meeting, and I greet you all.
Thank you so much, Minister Kozarev. I really appreciate those kind words and those words of support. The feeling is mutual, and I think you can tell that through this meeting, as well as potential future meetings. I think we are definitely growing those bonds of cooperation and friendship. So thank you again very much, Minister Councilor Kozarev, past district Governor Matic, and of course, Rotary President and representative from the district, Miloš Milivojević. I want to thank too all of the folks who've come from District 2483 and from around the world, and I'm sorry that we can't go through and introduce each one of you. You're certainly welcome to hang around after the meeting. I've got about 5 or 6 minutes worth of announcements here. And then once I close the meeting, we certainly can have some conversation after the meeting. Things are starting to open up a little bit, at least here in Chicago. So do get your Rotary One masks. These are made by our very own Natalie Loma. They're $20. The proceeds go to our COVID relief fund. We have a lot of member successes to report. A big part of what we want to do is make sure that we promote our members and all the great things that are happening to them. So please tell me, folks, if you have great things happening to you and I want to share it. So let me share a few here today. So Nellie Vasquez Rowland, who runs a safe haven and is also another Job One employer, she's having a book launch for her new book coming up soon, and we'll pop that in the chat box. So let's celebrate her new book with her. Also, our member Neetha Nagubadi just launched her app, Ethnic Events, and it will delight customers and corporate teams with exciting and fun cultural experiences. And that's something that will also pop in the chat box here. And speaking of Serbians, our two very own new members who are both from Serbia, Filip Milivojević and Danilo Tosic, they already are running several companies, talk about young entrepreneurs, Find CDL Jobs, Millennials Trucking, and Leader Freight Systems. But their plan for this year is to start another trucking company called Denver Cargo. And they're also starting their own dealership called Leader Truck Sales by the end of this month. They've been building their own electronic logging device software, as well as transportation management software, which are going to be operational here soon. So if you want any tips on how to run some businesses, talk to these guys. And congratulations to our members who are doing great things. And speaking of great things, I also want to always thank our volunteers. We've recently had several virtual and in-person volunteer events. We had our Rotary Reading Room on March 12th. Jody Stawicki and Ted Neville here are featured. Thank you so much, guys, for reading to the little kids. This has been a successful event. We've done now numerous versions of this, and we've got more coming up. We also delivered meals for seniors. Alita and we did hygiene packing, and that was Alita and myself, hygiene kit packing. And then we also delivered meals for seniors. And speaking of meals for seniors, every Friday, Maple Point Apartments, 150 West Maple, be there or be square at 5:30 p.m. Please sign up on our website. every Friday. It's super easy. Alita prepares the meals. You just deliver them to the seniors in the apartments. And then one more service project ask that I have coming up here is our Interact Club. Remember, Interact are high school Rotarians, and Rotary One's own Interact Club is embarking on a project to make and donate 100 masks to Misericordia, which is a nonprofit home for persons with developmental disabilities. They need folks to help pick up and drop off various supplies, basically people who have cars. It's super easy. It's socially distanced because they'll put the stuff outside of their house, you pick it up, bring it to the other place, drop it in front of the other person's house or in front of Misericordia. So pretty easy to do, folks. And please support our young Rotarians, our young interactors. A couple of quick things I'm just going to run through very quickly. Our Community Service Committee has our, speaking of CPS with Arne Duncan, our CPS Chicago Public Schools Opportunity Grants. They're up to $5,000 grants. We have up to $30,000 set aside to make a real impact on the city of Chicago. They're due at the end of this month. If you know people in CPS, teachers, principals, administrators, please share this opportunity with them. We want to get as many grants as possible. We also have this weekend another way to have fun and have fellowship and generate a little revenue for the Rotary Club of Chicago in a different way. We have our Shamrock Shuffle. It is a virtual race. You can participate between March 19th and the 21st. Registration is $30. We'll put the link in the chat box. It's super easy. I'm not going to go into details, but you can do it at your own pace. We got a bunch of people signed up already. If you want to walk or run with others, just let me know. I also want to draw your attention to something interesting the Maywood Proviso Rotary Club is doing. They're hosting a movie outing to go see Judas and the Black Messiah. And then they're going to have an in-person and virtual panel discussion afterwards. We'll share that information when it becomes available. I think there's a Facebook site now that you can go to get more information. But some of the folks who were in the movie, as well as Fred Hampton Jr. and his mother, are both actually going to be part of the panel discussion, which should be very, very exciting. As always, we have several upcoming meetings coming up. There are committee meetings. PR Marketing Committee on March 18th is the next one. For all other meetings, please check the calendar and please participate if you can. We also have a new member orientation. We invite all of our new members to join this Thursday at noon, learn a little bit about Rotary and see how you can be engaged. Speaking of being engaged, every Friday, the in-person roundtables are back. The COVID restrictions have let up enough that if you show up at the Union League Club on Friday between 12 and 12:30, join some of your favorite Rotarians for lunch there and pay your own way. Our next two proper Tuesday meetings, March 23rd is a club assembly. We'll talk a little bit about how the year has gone so far and the progress we've made on the strategic plan. Then on March 30th, we have Michael Strout-Manis, the Vice President of Civic Engagement for the Obama Foundation. Exciting things are happening there. So I invite you all to join, especially our guests. Feel free to come back and join us over Zoom. It's free, it's easy, as you've seen. We'd love to welcome you back. Now, we always end our meetings with reciting the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. And I'd like to invite our past district governor, Vlada, to please recite the four-way test for us. It's on the screen right now in front of you, if you don't mind.
Thank you. The four-way test, or the things we think, say, or do. The first, is it truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendship? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? If you allowed me to say one word only, we start with presentation with four-way test. We ask very famous Serbian and Montenegro guys to be our special guests and to speak about four-way test. And it was very, very good.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing that, Vlada. Thanks for reading the four-way test. I think we all live by that as Rotarians. I want to thank everybody today, all of our guests and members here from Chicago, from around the U.S., around the world, and of course, our special guests from District 2483, Serbia and Montenegro. And with that, meeting adjourned.